This is an RNZ podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Morris. Film festivals are an increasingly valuable institution in an era dominated by, frankly, too much content. With such an embarrassment of riches in cinemas and online, we'd be otherwise reliant on media hoopla and ballyhoo if we want to try and sort the wheat from the chaff.
It's time to get loud.
Let's fly, baby! Come on, bring it! Now that's what I'm talking about.
Multi-million-dollar publicity campaigns are fine at telling us what the big studios have spent fortunes on. They're less reliable at letting us know what's any good. All right, granted that the idea of what's any good is always going to be subjective, but at least curated film festivals benefit from the opinions of people who might know what they're talking about.
There's a word in Korean, inyeon. It means providence or fate.
Do you believe in that?
That's just something Koreans say to seduce someone.
In this country, we've been well catered for this year. Aside from the important International Film Festival, which reflects the tastes of top-end critics and programmers from Cannes, Venice, Sundance and the rest, there are other more populist festivals. And possibly the most successful of these regional collections has been Fergus Grady's popular French Film Festival.
Je suis à la table 8, là.
Jeune homme,
Qui t'a signé ici?
Dès demain, il sera remplacé, chef.
Avant de me jeter, chef, laissez-moi faire un essai au moins.
Proof of the croissant has been how many French Film Festival titles have returned in general release. Middle-aged crowd pleasers like Sugar and Stars, Driving Madeline, A Good Doctor and Country Cabaret.
Nous vous attendons nombreux pour le premier cabaret à la ferme de France.
À David, voilà.
Et puis je suis fière de toi.
m'engueule pas.
Mais je t'engueule pas, je te dis ce que je pense. Est-ce que vous êtes chaud pour le show?
In a world, as they used to say, of comic book fantasies, spectacular spy thrillers and overhyped American comedies, the French festival offered more old-fashioned fare, appealing characters, reassuring stories and familiar stars. And that's the basis of Fergus's new festival, drawing on films from across the channel.
We've been in this village all our lives, and we're supposed to share it with that lot who don't even know them.
Thank you for your kindness when we arrived. I really appreciate it. My name is Yara, by the way. What's yours?
Tommy Joe Ballantyne.
Some years ago, a number of disgruntled Brits started to complain that the UK was turning, if not into a parody of itself, then certainly a theme park version, Englandland perhaps. But is that so bad? I mean, the thing many of us love most about Britain is that it's home to some of the greatest actors and writers in the world, and nowhere is that more in evidence than in an upcoming film festival. It's the first British and Irish film festival, in fact, in honour of a couple of gems from the Emerald Isle. But the cast list alone is dazzling. From Sir Michael Caine to Gemma Arterton, Olivia Colman to Dame Helen Mirren, take that to Noel Coward. And to check out the runners and riders, I'm joined by Festival Director Fergus Grady. Hi, Fergus.
Nice to be with you, Simon.
So what you did for France, you're now planning to do for the British Isles.
Yeah, I mean, we were presented with an amazing list of films for this year, and we had an opportunity to try and stake our claim for the British Isles. So we've done that, and it's going to be a tight lead up. So, yeah, looking forward to presenting these amazing films.
Maybe a bit of a surprise to some of our audience that Britain and Ireland actually needs a festival. I mean, you know, there's quite a few British and Irish films that pop up during the year anyway. I mean, is there any reason why you decided that you needed to have a specifically dedicated festival?
I guess there was an opportunity that arose from COVID, and we had had a lot of success with the French, and particularly in COVID, we had some amazing audience numbers. So with something like the British and Irish Festival, we have a bit more broad range of selection and curation, not just from England, but you know, Ireland and Northern Ireland and Wales and Scotland, and I don't want to forget the smaller places. But yeah, I think with Sir Michael Caine potentially being his last film unfortunately lost the late Glenda Jackson on the film. Yeah, we wanted to present these incredible stars that a lot of people have grown up with, and that's why we chose this year and the British Isles.
Before we get into a rundown of some of the films here, and there's some absolute crackers among them, I was wondering about the success of the French one. I mean, they're very middle class. There's nothing particularly arty about them. They're just really well-made films, and I suspect that that's what's driving this festival as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think post-COVID, we're just trying to get people back to the cinema. It's such a great experience. Supporting independent cinema is really critical to what we do. And it's my place to escape. I love going to the cinema and taking friends and family.
Well, let's have a look at some of them. And you can't have British films without the war. This is World War II, of course. And you've touched on one of the highlights. This is Michael Caine and the late Glenda Jackson in a film called The Great Escaper.
Where is he? He's disappeared off the face of the earth. He's in France.
Bonjour.
At 90. Well, he has done it before. Only then, of course, they were shooting at him.
Yeah, so this is a 2014 story, a true story, and it took obviously a while for it to be made, but Sir Michael Caine, I should say, has come on board as a 90-year-old in real life now. Pretty amazing career he's had. And basically escapes a retirement village and heads to the D-Day landing 70th anniversary. It's quite an emotional journey, and he meets up with some war vets from Germany, so there's some really moving scenes in the film. And unfortunately, Glenda Jackson, who also has had an amazing career, passed away in post-production, so this is her last film, which we're honoured to present to New Zealand audiences.
It's astonishing that the two of them never seem to have worked together, because they both seem to work on different sides of the track, didn't they? I mean, Michael Caine his career is very commercially based, and Glenda Jackson became so kind of political in her stuff that she ended up becoming a politician. But it's great to see the two of them together. I think they're lovely in this.
Yeah, I read a recent article in The Guardian about their different backgrounds, and Michael Caine, coming from a working class background, just wanted to make money. Glenda Jackson went the other way and was very left-wing as an MP in the UK.
Looking at some of the other war films, we have a couple of films that have come from the period immediately before the war. One of them is called One Life, starring Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, this has been very popular. I think we're up to 10 or 11 sellouts. So Christchurch is completely sold out, and Wellington and Auckland are getting close. So this has been dubbed the British Schindler's List. Sir Nicholas Winton, who's a British stockbroker, ends up in former Czechoslovakia and is basically trying to evacuate all these Jewish children. With the help of Helena Bonham Carter, they managed to secure some visas and billet these young children on the train.
Nikki, you must know we cannot save them all. You have to forgive yourself that.
I started, so I have to finish it.
We cannot let these people down.
It is incredible what you achieved.
This is kind of hot off the press, isn't it? Because I understand this got launched at Toronto recently. So this is, brand spanking new in some respects.
Yeah, I think the premiere was exactly a month ago. So we might be even getting the third or fourth screening in the world. I know it's going to play London Film Festival, and then basically, Wellington on the 17th of October will be the third or fourth screening of the film, which is incredible. Great coup we had.
Oh, fantastic. Another one set just before the war is something called The Critic, which is slightly different, a spikier piece of work set in the theatre in England just before the war, starring Sir Ian McKellen, Mark Strong, who's, I love him as a heavy. I don't think he's a heavy in this, and the great Gemma Arterton. What's this story about?
Yeah, also directly from Toronto. So Ian McKellen is an actor, and I guess it's an interesting piece. I don't want to reveal too much, but I think it really leans into that Sir Ian McKellen kind of fascination of this really well-spoken, formally trained actor. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with audiences.
And the final war story is a documentary about the artist Eric Ravilius, who I don't know, but is apparently belatedly suddenly huge now.
Yeah, we're thrilled to secure this film. It did really well in the UK. It was the second highest grossing doco film released last year after the David Bowie film. So it was really well received in the UK, and there's some great talking heads that can speak to sort of authority of who he was and what he was trying to do with his craft.
He was a wartime artist, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was more of a pacifist, and he was fascinated by war. So it's kind of speaking to the paintings of that time.
Another of the highlights of the festival, I can hear people yelling out already, "Where's Olivia Colman? If this is a British festival, where's Olivia Colman?" She's here. She's in a film called Wicked Little Letters.
Yeah, we've got the potty mouth Olivia Colman in this one. We haven't been able to share the trailer yet, but confidentially I've been able to see the film, and it's it might shock a few people, but I think a lot of audiences are going to find this hilarious. We've been able to secure an M rating, which is great, but there are a few profanities, and it's a true story again. So looking forward to Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley, as well as Timothy Spall in this one.
Well, you can already tell that there's an awful lot of extremely, well-known veteran actors, but slightly fewer well-known directors, with one major exception. This is the positively final performance, we're told, by the great Ken Loach, The Old Oak, which looks fantastic.
Yeah, so this is the only Cannes competition title we have in the lineup, and we've been... Well, I guess we're really lucky to secure the New Zealand premiere. I would have thought it had gone to other festivals after May, but come October we've got the New Zealand premiere, and I think it's his 18th film in Cannes, and didn't win this time, but he's won it a couple of times, the Palme d'Or, so really looking forward to potentially presenting his last film. We'll see.
The village, the old oak. We need this.
It's like a bloody refugee camp.
What's your mouth, pal? It's not charity. This is solidarity. This is about we'll do something together.
It's a big sentimental favourite in both France and in England, but the thing that people seem to most love about it is the fact that he's still angry. It's not sort of cosy and comfy. It's a sort of, he's shaking his fist at what's going on in England right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite hard for him to retire given the political situation in the UK. But hey, we're excited to have him in our festival.
We have a couple of biopics, including Golda. This is a rather controversial film, largely because of the casting of Helen Mirren as Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir. But she looks fantastic in this.
Yeah, she's almost... I couldn't recognise her in the first scene, and she's chain-smoking throughout. So it's a real role for Helen Mirren, or Dame Helen Mirren, and the film has done really well overseas, and we're excited. The sales are going really well for this one, so audiences should grab tickets soon.
I think it's partly because of the fact that it is a long time ago and people probably are not particularly as familiar with the Yom Kippur War as they might have been, say 50 years ago. So I'm up for that one. There's another one. This is Gabriel Byrne playing Samuel Beckett, the great Irish writer. And the story is called Dance First.
Yeah, and also directed by James Marsh, who is an Oscar-winning director from The Theory of Everything. So, yeah, another great pedigree film. It's a bit esoteric, this film. It's kind of Gabriel Byrne plays Samuel Beckett, and he also has this kind of demons and angels on his shoulder throughout the film. But we have a great supporting cast as well. And, yeah, it's sort of vignettes of his life. So it's not a straight biopic by any stretch of the imagination.
I love the fact that it seems to take place over a very specific period of time. It's about the time that he decided he didn't want to get the Nobel Prize, apparently.
Yeah, that's the first scene in the film where they present him the Nobel Prize, and then it goes on a different direction than you'd expect. It was a really nice film. Just premiered last week, actually, in San Sebastian in Spain. So, again, we're really lucky to secure a New Zealand premiere straight after the world premiere.
Speaking of Ireland, there's another film that's had a lot of buzz about it. This is a film called In the Land of Saints and Sinners. And aside from anything, it's got a really interesting cast.
Yeah, we've got Liam Neeson, Ciarán Hinds, and Kerry Condon. So all-star Irish cast. Liam Neeson kind of is still playing the same kind of character. He's a little bit angry. He doesn't want to get violent, but he gets drawn into this IRA small town in Ireland drama. And I loved Ciarán Hinds in this. He's a favourite of mine and plays the local police officer.
The explosion left 6 dead.
Freemar, what is it that you did? I lost track long ago.
A saint's got to be a sinner first, don't he?
Yeah, I think for anyone who loves Liam Neeson films, they won't be disappointed, and anyone who likes Irish dramas, they won't be disappointed either.
I think that one surprise member of the cast is Jack Gleeson. Now, people probably think, who's Jack Gleeson? Game of Thrones, the world's most horrible king.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's not a likeable character in this. Well, he does have a bit of a redeeming feature towards the end, so audiences should check this one out.
Oh, that's good. So the fans of King Joffrey will be clamouring to sort of see him get his. There's another film called... Now, I'm always very iffy about pronunciation of Irish names because the pronunciation bears very little resemblance to the spelling, but I'm going Roishi and Frank.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think Roisha is how I've been saying it. And it's a sweet little drama in Irish language, so there'll be English subtitles. And if anyone likes dogs or, hurling or GAA, this is one for them. We're excited to have the Irish community really come out for this film.
Artists feature quite a lot also in the festival, including quite a few outsiders and insiders. And leading the outsiders is Monica Dolan, who's got a faintly Irish-sounding name, but she's very English. She plays an outsider artist called Audrey O'Miss, and the film is called Typist, Artist, Pirate King. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it's a mouthful, but Kelly MacDonald stars opposite Monica Dolan, and they're both incredible on screen.
You need to drive myself and my art to this gallery before the deadline.
Must be close by now.
It is 280 miles precisely. Sunderland.
You said it was local.
It is to me.
And I think this one, which is a bit of a road movie, it's something that's surprising. I would really recommend people see it. It might not sell it on the trailer, but I think once you watch the film, you really get it. And Carol Morley, who had a bit of a hot start as a young, director, I think this is her best film. So, yeah, really recommend that one.
I was glancing at the rundown of how it goes, and I was getting a kind of a Don Quixote buzz about it too. There seem to be these two people going off on a weird journey to nowhere much,
Yeah, it's not like, again, it's sort of similar to Dance First. It's not a straight biopic and it's not a straight road movie, but great performances, really strong performances from both.
Now, speaking of artists, you don't get any more insider than the boy band Take That. You've got a movie called Greatest Days, which is subtitled Take That, the Musical.
Yeah, this is the outlier of the festival, but something that I probably enjoyed the most. It's silly, but I think audiences who are looking for this type of film will really enjoy it. It's something that, girls' night out, a glass of wine or bubbles will really complement the film.
Win tickets to see your favourite boy band reunite in Athens. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Today this could be.
Are you screaming yet, Rachel O'Flynn?
Greatest day.
Big fan of you, Rachel.
I'm their biggest fan of the whole entire world.
It's really well produced, and the budget, speaks for itself. It looks great on screen.
In a weird sort of way, in the 1920s and 30s, the equivalent of a boy band was a one-manned boy band. This is Noel Coward. And finally, there's a documentary about him. It's called Mad About the Boy, based on one of his songs, but also based on him as well. And I'm absolutely looking forward to it because he was so huge then. He had so many skills, and he's all but forgotten now. I
didn't really know much about him before I watched this, and it's directed by Barnaby Thompson, and he's really done a deep dive into his life, and a lot of big fans, people we've already mentioned, Sir Michael Caine, have sort of spoken about him in the film, and it's a really good snapshot of his life and how he really broke ground as a sort of a gay actor.
He was famously the best paid writer on Broadway for a while. In fact, at one stage I think he had about 3 or 4 plays on at the same time on Broadway at the peak of his career.
Yeah, no, I think he wrote, directed and acted as well. Yeah. So he was a triple threat on stage and broke ground as well in film and television.
And speaking of well-known Brits, Jackie Stewart aiming at a completely different audience. This is the famous Formula One racing driver.
I mean, this is a really important story, and Jackie is very much a self-made man, kind of dyslexic and left school pretty young. But, you know, I don't know if your listeners watched the Formula One, but he's still walking around the tracks. He's going to most of the events, and I think with the popularity of the sport right now, it's a really nice insight into the personalities back in the 60s and 70s. It's very different to now.
I think that one thing that you do notice looking down the list is that while this festival is clearly aimed at a very specific audience, this is my local, in fact, you know, there'll be standing room only at most of these films, I imagine, that, you keep looking at it and thinking, well, this is middle-aged to old, isn't it? I mean, no young up-and-comers among these films.
We've just added an 18th film, which is not in the booklet. It's called The Lesson. Hopefully this appeals to a younger audience. We've got Daryl McCormack, who was in Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, as well as Richard E. Grant and Julie Dupleix. So I think this will appeal to a younger audience, and yeah, something that we've been able to secure last minute, and I really implore people to see this one. It's a really strong film and has been reviewed really well.
Well, at the ending, it feels like a different novel. Like it was written by someone else.
Liam, good writers
borrow. Great writers steal.
It sounds great. I mean, I have to say that I'm going to finish with 3 films that were sort of also in the festival. But the one thing they seem to have in common is that they feature a bunch of odd groups. You've got Northern Comfort, which is a whole lot of would-be flyers led by Timothy Spall, of all people.
Yeah, this is sort of a Norwegian-British co-production, and it's a really interesting concept about people who are afraid of flying. And Timothy Spall kind of rallies the troops when there's a bit of a incident. So quite a fun ride, and it played in the South by Southwest Film Festival, and it has a pretty diverse cast.
And you've got another one called The Trouble with Jessica, which I've noted as a dinner party from hell. That's a bit of a genre in itself, really, in some respects.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I guess there's a murder, and so people are trying to work out who or whether it's suicide, and whether there's any implications around the owners of the house trying to sell and having potentially buyers coming through that night. So it's a bit of a theatrical stage play set with some really good actors, including Rufus Sewell.
I like Rufus Sewell, and I like Shirley Henderson too. She's in it as well. This little poison dwarf woman who turns up in a lot of these films.
An hour ago, we were just having dinner.
This is going to change everything. She decided to kill herself in our garden right when we're trying to sell the house. I mean, who does that? Who goes and kills himself in someone else's garden? Why couldn't she just have killed herself in her own garden?
She's never garden.
And finally, there's a film called Sweet Sue, which is described as a generation gap battle. What is that? Remind me of that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned this last. It's my favourite hidden gem in the festival. Sue has recently met Ron, who's a motorcyclist, and it's kind of an offbeat British comedy that I really like, this sort of sense of humour, and it's a first-time director, and Ron's son comes into the picture, and Sue has some issues with his passion, which is Instagram and TikTok dancing. So I think it's quite a funny generational drama about people dealing with Instagram and TikTok influencers.
Something for everyone seems to be the idea behind the festival, and it looks like it's really going to be popular. I'm assuming that the bookings are starting to fill up right now.
Yeah, I definitely get people to book for One Life. As I said, it's already sold out in Christchurch and Wellington, and Auckland are filling up. Great Escaper and Golda are doing really well. So it's something for everyone. I mean, there's a documentary, there's also dramas and musicals. So enjoy. Hopefully, the weather is not great and we get lots of people coming in on a rainy day.
And if this does well, I'm assuming there's going to be the second one next year.
Yeah, we're hoping to do that. We'd love to add a few more Irish films. We sort of struggled this year, but looking ahead, next year is going to be a good year for Irish cinema.
The thing I like most about them is there's not a sequel among them. They're all fresh stories.
Yeah, and I think that's the remit. We're trying to find these original stories, and I think, similar to the French, we'd love to get more of these dry British comedies, the crowd-pleasing ones. So we're on the hunt for next year's lineup.
The world is crying out for more magic.
Art makes life worth living.
I'm glad I came with you. You must be bonkers.
I've been talking to Fergus Grady, director of the upcoming British and Irish Film Festival. The festival opens in 14 locations around the country between October the 17th and, appropriately, November the 5th.